Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. Hitler faked his death and then escaped. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, and we're kind of back with, you could say, another Strange Stogies episode to an extent. It is a nice warm day out, so I didn't, when I got here, actually, who am I with?
Good question. It's a good introduction right there. Today you're with someone you've already maybe heard me, but it's...
No! I don't even remember the last time I've drank Corona, so and that's what I was gonna say that I didn't know this is Anheuser-Busch, and it is. My mistake. I didn't want to support that shit. Good way to fucking start the episode, spilling fucking beer. Okay, yes, we'll just redo that. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson. And I just spilled my Corona everywhere. Did not know that this was part of the Anheuser-Busch collection company, but my mistake. I don't like supporting total bullshit. So welcome everybody back to the show. You know me, or you should by now. And who am I joined by?
You're joined by Brett, the man of many tastes.
Yeah, that's your nickname.
That's my
That's your nickname.
Man of many tastes.
Yeah, so this should be pretty fun. Technically, you know, the Strange Stogies episode will be for Patreon for the people that were able to catch that on the main waves. There'll definitely be more coming, but we're still smoking cigars. I have a beer. It's a nice warm day, and we're gonna get into something particularly strange, you could say. What are you drinking on?
Today we are drinking a Denmark Fax. It's one of the main beers that are 10%. And you only need one because it's going to get you absolutely liquored. So for those who are faint of heart, please don't drink this.
Can I try it?
Yeah, go for it. Strong as shit. Careful.
Yeah, I like strong beers. Okay, it's not like some of the IPAs that are really strong. Where
no,
like
it's a,
you can
it's a
just
wheat.
Yeah, it's not
It's
as
barley.
hoppy.
Yeah, you can taste it.
Oh yeah, I actually don't mind that. I'm a big fan of IPAs. I know people are like, oh, the guys that drink IPAs. Well, at least I don't drink Bud Light, so I never have. And I just think it's funny because you can see some people that I'm like, oh, they probably were promoting it. Like I love Bad Friends, one of my favorite podcasts, honestly, and I'll shout them out because they're great. It's Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino, two comedians. You probably know who Bobby Lee is. Great show. And they had Bert Kreischer on, and they were drinking Bud Light and kept like referencing it. So I said to Chelsea, I was like, oh, they're definitely being paid big money to promote it because they're losing so much money. So they're probably trying to grab onto certain audiences. And like I just want to get this out of the way of like why I joked about like Corona and why I wouldn't support Anheuser-Busch. First of all, it's a huge corporation that puts tons of GMOs and poisonous stuff within your alcohol, which is already poison. But it's a whole thing of like, I don't give a shit if people want to be whoever they want to be. Sure, like we have literally a gay person that is a part of this podcast and stuff. But I just wanted to make the point that I don't want to support Dylan Mulvaney, a fucking narcissistic person that parades around in a little girl's costume.
Yeah, well, did you see the infighting of Caitlyn Jenner and Dylan Mulvaney?
Yeah.
Yeah, Caitlyn.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, just started attacking him full tilt.
So crazy. And they'll like go, and then you see the infighting and what they're, I think it's all part of, I think even the stuff they're pushing to have people go against the LGBT is actually part of the plan and stuff like that to divide and conquer. I do think that is a part of it. But this is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about the lizard people of LA. This is an interesting episode. I actually had a fan shout this out and tell me about it. Just like get that off the camera. And I've never really heard of this. I've heard of stuff with inside of certain cities and underground. Actually, I was just telling somebody at work about the underground system of subways where homeless people live in New York. It's wild. There's a documentary, I think it's called like Dark Days, Dark something, and I remember watching it like years ago when I was like drinking, and I was like, whoa, like I'm sitting there like drunk, like watching this weird doc about like how there's homeless people that live underneath the where the old subway system used to be in New York, and they have like electricity and they have like pets and stuff down there, and there's probably over like 100, 200 people, probably more now. I don't know if they've got them out, but it's a crazy doc because they live inside the underground. They're literally like mole people, like in Futurama.
Oof. That's a little wild.
Crazy. It's crazy that shit exists. And so this is a slightly little different. There's always been tales of lost civilizations and mysterious people populating the fringes of our understanding. The darkest, most remote corners of our world are rife with such tales, and they always have held a certain fascination of those who wonder what lies over the horizon or past the borders of what we think we know. Because I really believe we don't know much.
No, I agree. They show us as much as we need to know.
Yeah.
And after that, then everything else is just conspiracy or just
a guess.
Put inside of a movie.
Yeah.
And then when they say, oh, this happened, it's like, oh, you saw that in a movie.
No, 100%. And like they drip feed it. Have you ever seen Jupiter Ascending?
I have.
You have? Oh, man. I was going to say for even Aaron's show, I was telling him about you and how we could get you on the horror podcast too, because you like movies, especially like older movies and stuff like that. And like there's some really good horror movies we could talk about, but even stuff like that could be fun, is talking about movies like Jupiter Ascending, which there's goofy parts in it, but it's literally about the stuff that I truly believe in harvest of humans and their souls. And they have like the reptilians in there and shit. And when I first saw that, I was like, whoa. And how...
And the reptilians were on Jupiter.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
And
dude.
I was like, wow, that's interesting. So
I haven't had Corona in a long time. It is a good for hot beer, but this would probably be the last time that I can purchase it, not gonna lie. It was just something quick, and I ran in, there's just offshoot kind of LCBO that's just like a store for everything on the way to your place, and I was like, good enough for me. Who gives a fuck? So funny. And I'm not a big fan of Corona, but if you have a lime in it and you shake it up with the lime, it's a little fun. But do you think that it's possible for the Earth to be hollow to some extent, or have cavern? Like there's tons of caverns.
This is the thing. Like, if we're talking about super advanced, reptilian race that can master basically all bases of technology, I don't think it's out of the question, right?
Well, we know that they have DUMBs and stuff.
Yeah.
Underground bases.
Well,
and
look
stuff.
at NORAD, right?
Yeah.
NORAD's like a deep subterranean base that's in the middle of nowhere, and it can survive, a direct nuclear hit.
Yeah.
So that's just
technology, man.
Yeah, but I have heard of the hollow Earth theory, and that it's in Antarctica, and that's where the entrance to it is, and so many people, it's even illegal to go to Antarctica, even if you have all the right credentials and everything like that, unless you get proper permission. Yeah,
and for more of that, listen to our almost 4-hour episode on Antarctica, which is that was eventually going to lead up to Hollow Earth, which we will get to at some point. I just have to figure out when and who I really want on it, who is because I think it would be worth having Billy on, maybe even you, if we could somehow put that together in a way. I know Aaron finds that fascinating, so is Anton. So we'll see kind of where it goes, but that stuff's always fascinated me. I've always loved the idea of Hollow Earth, and we know for a fact there is many hidden caverns within the world, and we can prove this. And even you have the thing the missing 411, where the cave systems overlay where children go missing and stuff, and the national parks are all connected to these caverns.
Yeah, especially in what is that one place called? It's somewhere in the States where it's this national state park where a lot of people go missing.
Yosemite Sam, that's one of it.
Yeah.
The Yosemite Park or whatever, but there's a couple that actually people go missing all the time, and that will come eventually on the show. Also, is diving into some of that shit because it's fascinating to me, and there's so many people that go missing, dude.
Yeah. Well, there's I've heard of not rumors, but I've heard my dad, because he's such a conspiracy theorist as yourself, that they built a boring machine. They already have tunnels that go from one side of the United States all the way to the other, and it's nuclear powered and driven, and it gets the rock so hot, turns into molten rock.
I've heard that too.
And then it forces it to the sides, and it can do about 7 miles a day.
That's so crazy.
And
I've also heard that same shit.
Yeah, and then there's truck drivers saying they go into these huge, underground tunnels.
Yeah, it's great. If you go on our, I'll repost it when this episode comes out, but it's on our TikTok, and it's reached so many people. It's a video of a truck driver going into one of these underground tunnels, and it's got like hundreds and thousands of views. It's crazy and then I spliced in a clip of this guy riding on a motorcycle through these crazy tunnels. That's supposedly where they traffic like children and all this shit. And I think it is quite possible. And even I was saying to your dad when we were talking the one day, because, I really do thoroughly enjoy and like your family. And I think it's cool to be able to have someone so awake as your like parents are to the shit that's going on. And I was talking about like how, I don't know where I saw it. I was on Coast to Coast, something like that. And I do believe this is possible. Of someone that was an insider he was in the States and he was going for some sort of project, and then to go to Australia, and then they took him into this underground base, and then they went into what looked like an elevator. And this guy said that his stomach like turned, and then they opened up the doors, and within like 2 or 3 minutes they were like, "Welcome to Australia," and there was like Australian military outside these doors, and supposedly he went through some sort of like tunnel or some shit. Like,
do you think they built like some sort of like elevator that goes
through certain cave systems or something like that, but it's so fast and goes through these systems, or a rail, almost like a fucking super fast like rails or something.
That kind of reminds me of a movie. Have you seen the new Total Recall?
Is it good? I feel like I watched parts of it.
It goes from Washington.
I might need this lit up just a little more to get it.
So it goes from there's a huge rail system, and it uses maglev like technology. And what it does is that it literally goes from Washington all the way to Tokyo, and it goes straight through the planet. And they literally drop it. Too. Yeah, it apparently works on like anti-gravity too. So like that's how a lot of the machines work. But like, watch the new Total Recall, because it's like,
I think they drip feed some of that stuff in there.
I
think it would be kind of funny if like you like if you're someone that's it has that clearance, that access to top secret information, or we're able to see some of these facilities, and then you go through and it's like, hey, I can't do a German accent, but it's like, here's Hollow Earth, and you like go over, like you like almost shoot through like a tunnel thing, like a thing where you see inside Hollow Earth, and you're like, weird. Is this like the same? Supposedly they took Buzz Aldrin up on one of this David Wilcock claims this, and they took him up, and they had this technology to slingshot you around the moon.
Right.
So it uses some sort of gravity technology, and it's stuff that I don't understand. I'm not a fucking scientist or an insider like that, and it somehow like it's a ship that like you can go up in the atmosphere, and the force of the gravity of the moon, but the moon doesn't really have gravity, or like the propulsion is used with how the moon rotates around the Earth, and it comes back, and then you can kind of see the dark side of the moon. And they were briefing Buzz Aldrin, who is a 33rd degree Mason, on all the stuff that is going on. And then supposedly he had a heart attack, and they claimed he had a heart attack when he was in Antarctica, I think. But they showed him the dark side of the moon, and there were civilizations on it, and he like all this stuff like freaked him out that he had a heart attack when he was up there in one of these ships. Isn't that a wild story, dude? If that's true.
That'd be something to see, especially like knowing what you know and you can't tell a soul.
Fucking base on the moon.
Oh, the Iron Sky.
Yeah. Okay, there's a documentary, Above Majestic. I know it is like it's just them saying a bunch of shit, and there's no entirely proof of what it is. It's just insider information. Supposedly, you would probably enjoy it. I could probably send you the link to it because I know it's on places for free. And they talk about what's the joke I've made many times on the show about the swastika-shaped base on the moon, and then supposedly because they had the Nazis had technology to be able to go up there and build stuff, and they drip-fed it in movies like Iron Sky. And then once the American military took it over, people felt uncomfortable working in a swastika, so they made it into a square. I always mention that because I think it's true, it's fucking funny.
Well, you hear about that building that's in California. There's also another building in California that is shaped like a swastika.
Really? Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's near the coast.
Well, look at the fucking, there's, I say it in one of my songs where there's fucking streets designed in pentagrams and shit. Like,
yeah, Washington, D.C.
It's a little weird, people. Yeah. So, while the wild, isolated, uncharted places of the world may be seen for obviously ideal candidates for this sort of thing, This doesn't always seem to be the case, but there's one very bizarre tale of a lost underground civilization comes to us from a man who claims to have found essentially a race, an underground race of people called the lizard people that once lived under Los Angeles, California.
Which is kind of...
I wish I had my soundboard, I don't.
Well, this is what I find really interesting. Like, let's look at where, like, California's nice, I'll give it that, but, like, look at all the, like, the things that are developed in the middle of the desert for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Like, you have the Hoover Dam, Las Vegas, you have all these, I don't know what these places of, like, paradise, but it's also the places of, like, like, ecstasy of your dreams, but it's also the place of your utmost torment of losing everything.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And why is there so much developed going on in places that are just so barren and remote? Like, what is it about, like, San Francisco, Harbor Bay that makes it just, let's all go here?
It's really weird. If you look at stuff like even like Dubai, where
exactly. Another example.
That supposedly, if you want to look to what they want to create for the rest of humanity, you look to Dubai and China and the way that they're developing their cities, and how I think it's Dubai that wants to create this huge apartment building wall thing. It's fucking weird. So it's a huge, like, it looks like a wall, but it's apartment buildings. It has everything you need inside. Everything. But the thing is, and it can house over 2 million people or something. They're trying to develop this right now, and it will be filled with the most high-tech technology. But once you're in, they may never let you out again. And then you're kind of just like an ant farm inside of this thing.
That was the whole thing. Of like they build these whole new buildings that's got everything you ever want. It's your own prison, but you'll never be able to leave. But you got everything you want.
That's kind of like what we are today, though. Is like we're kind of living in our own prison, and people don't even realize it. You know, there's, as David Icke says, there's two forms of dictatorship. One where you can see the bars and you know you're in prison, and the other ones you think you're free, but you can't see the bars, but you're actually in a dictatorship.
That's actually a religious reference too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever heard that one before.
No, have you? What is it?
So, it's from a movie called God Is Not Dead. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that, for example, like, imagine you're in a prison cell and you're just blessed. This is your prison cell as you speak. You got everything. You have everything you ever wanted. It's giving you everything you ever wanted. It's giving you everything you've ever dreamed and desired. Mm-hmm. But that's your spiritual corruption. Yeah. I mean, you can come and go as you leave, but one day when that door closes, you're going to be trapped by your own desires. Yeah, it makes sense in some regard. And there's people that are talking about this recently. If you look at how they develop a prison and how they're developing society and stuff like that too, it's fucking kind of crazy. Cheap ass cigars. I know. I was gonna say I'm not getting much off of this one. Unfortunately, they're very old, so that's probably why. Yeah, they were a gift. I didn't really smoke them because I usually got better ones. Here, maybe just chop off that end where it's like cut. Hopefully, it doesn't fucking make it worse. Yeah. Oh, that makes it better. That'll be good. I don't need to fucking haul on a huge cigar. I do, unfortunately. Oh yeah. But anyway, back to it. Yeah. Sorry, I got fucking cigar shit in my mouth. And there were supposedly in 1933 a mining engineer. I'll let you get that fired up. Oh yeah, I'm getting some good draws off that now. It's probably just the end being fucking falling apart. In 1933, a mining engineer in Los Angeles, California, by the name of G. Warren Shufelt, claimed that he came up with a revolutionary new device for surveying underground the underground for oil, gold, and other valuable resources, as well as for subterranean caves and cavern systems. He called it Radio X Machine, and it looked like a pendulum suspended in a cylindrical glass case, which was enscored with a black box and worked like some sort of technologically advanced dowsing rod, which is kind of interesting. It's just funny because G. Warren Shufelt, when I was researching this, I thought that was funny because you switch those letters. Warren G, bro. Warren G. It's old hip hop shit. Fucking good. I love Warren G. And then, it was one description of the time. One description of the time described it as a cylindrical glass case inside of which a plummet attached itself to a copper wire held by the engineer sways continuously
Sounds weird. And according to G. Warren Schufelt, his machine could be used as radio X-rays to analyze chemicals, electrical, and physical properties of matter at great depths up to several miles away. Using this process, he never really explained, but assured that anyone it was a newly discovered scientific principle. So much like a lot of scientists, if this holds any truth, is he didn't want to expose really how it worked, but supposedly people did witness it actually working. He just didn't tell you how it worked.
I wonder if he was bought off like for his machine. Like, we don't want this guy to find out, so we better pay him off so he goes away.
Might make sense, man. G. Warren began using his mysterious device all over Los Angeles area, looking for gold and other valuable materials. It was directly under the city's downtown area where he allegedly he made this shocking discovery. There, directly under the heart of the city, he puzzled to find readings of a vast underground tunnel system he claimed that actually made its way out to the top of Mount Washington and miles under Santa Monica Bay. So it went everywhere. And this cavern system he could trace in this vast underground tunnel went in all sorts of different directions, which is wild. He claimed that these tunnels were intellectually arranged and formed a structured labyrinth complete with rooms and various large chambers. The whole of it such as an immense size that he could estimate it would comfortably be able to house at least 5,000 people. Which is weird because you look at the Egyptians and stuff too, and like the pyramids and the systems and the tunnels within the pyramids that they still haven't discovered or went down. It's kind of crazy.
You gotta think, like, what would be the most reasonable option why they would want to locate this directly in any cities? Do you think it's because they can, use power while they're down there and not be detected by anyone else and be like, oh no, it's just the city above?
You know what I think? I think it's to tunnel fucking children, which is part of the grand conspiracy of like I said before, 85,000 children went missing at the border. No one knows where they are. Where do all these children go missing a year? You really, really think that, like, yes, it could be part of this grand scheme. The more logical is, like, it's part of this grand scheme for sex trafficking because for some reason humans are that depraved and there's that many of people in the elites that use children, even if it's for adrenochrome, which is more of a physically based thing, even though if you get to the spiritual aspects of it, it's a way to connect with the gods. Because supposedly when they take adrenochrome, there's been stories of people and like Hillary Clinton and people have supposedly done these sort of things where they will like fuck the kid to the point of climax, slit the throat, and then drink the blood because they scare the living shit out of the child. Before this, slit the throat, and then they have the blood pour out, and then they drink the blood, and then supposedly is the big word, they see entities and shit. They connect to dark energies and entities that exist outside of our eyesight. And it's like the most horrible, depraved things, and they connect to this. And when we eventually get to our Gray Alien episode, we'll kind of be talking about this stuff of why they do this. But a part of the reason I do believe is because they have a deal. I think they have a deal with the reptilians, or there's some sort of demonic energy that takes hold of pubescent children and uses them as a food source, or their energy as a food source, and that's why they're supposed to be given to the underground. I've rapped about this and stuff in some of my songs of like.
But it's like a food source for them, like children that have like adrenochrome in their meat. Same thing with the Chinese. Do you know why they kill and skin their animals alive?
Why?
Because it gets the adrenaline inside the meat, so they think makes the meat taste better. Which is like not an outrageous theory because the Chinese do it, and
we do it too. You know that, like for pigs and cattle. Some people in farm do that. They do. I've heard that they like pigs and cows. They're in a state of fear when they're going to get slaughtered, and it goes into the meat. And I'm a big advocate of eating meat, and especially we were lied to by the sugar company, and they did that to say that red meat was bad for your heart, so they could propagate sugar and all this stuff. But there is an idea, okay, that we actually were never carnivores, that humans originally just ate plants and stuff like that, and we adapted to certain situations. And people will say why we have canines is to rip apart meat. It could also say that there is animals out there that just eat vegetation that have canine teeth, just to be able to get through certain plants or whatever. But there's a theory that the reptilians influenced us or brainwashed us in some sort of way, conditioned us to eat meat because they like the taste of us better that way because we're eating. Is that fucked? If that's true at all.
Pretty fucked up. Yeah.
Pretty
Another
wild.
thing to add on to like this whole thing, like think about how many movies, like in video games that relate to like subterranean races. Gears of War is like one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And now you come to really think about it, like look how much they look like lizard people.
Yeah.
They're stronger, they're smarter, they're faster.
Okay, look at fucking Mario, dude. That Mario
Yeah, exactly.
movie,
You go subterranean.
They still they put lizard people in that movie, and there's the fucking Twin Towers and all that shit. There's a lot of symbolism in the Mario movie for some reason. Yeah. They call me a
But, like,
psycho,
Journey to the Center of
chainsaw
the
my
Earth?
gun like a Gears of War rifle.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
self-titled line.
That was ruthless.
And so what I was telling you about where he's like taking med pills, visions of chasing my enemies on a treadmill. That's from the same song. He talks about the Gears of War rifle. I was like, that's pretty sick. I thought you would like that because you like that game.
Well, I just like it because it's just, that's probably like the most realistic like version of like warfare and combat you could possibly like. Yeah, I get Call of Duty's there, but like, I mean, the dismemberment, like people blowing up and like body parts everywhere, the amount of blood that would be in it, it's just.
Well, and I've seen someone sent me, I can't remember what it is. Someone sent me stuff about an old video game. Maybe it was the dude I had on that wrote that book about like, this guy I had on wrote a sci-fi book about the gentrification of LA. It's on Patreon now. And in his book, he talks about lizard people like taking over and all this stuff. And I don't know if it was him that sent me in this old game, early 2000s or something like that, maybe a little later. And it talked about like them like using people as like a food source and all this shit. And
It's fucked up.
I think it's drip fed and certain stuff. So making it even more exciting was he said that he was able to pick up readings that showed there were large stores of gold kept down there in those dank rooms and tunnels, almost like the Egyptians. So he meticulously made a secret map of this new underground realm and went about trying to figure out just what he had found. And he would say this about his findings.
I knew I was over the pattern of tunnels, and I had made a map out of the course of the tunnels and the positions of large rooms scaled alone, the tunnel and the tunnel route, as well as the position and
Deposits, I guess, of gold.
deposits of gold, but I couldn't understand the meaning of it. My radio X machine pictures of tunnels and rooms are
Subsurface
voids and gold pictures and perfect corners, side and ends, and specific scientific proof and of their other existence. However, the legendary story must remain
unearthed by excavation. So he seems like he wanted to excavate it and find what was in there.
Yeah.
Like it seemed because he's saying that he supposedly found like the deposits of gold down there, and using this radio X-ray machine thing for in these weird subsurface voids, which is weird. And like he said, what he's claiming is like there's perfect corners of these rooms and how it wouldn't have been made naturally.
So what he's scaling out is he's actually scaling out geometric shapes rather than actual caverns that that loom.
Whoa, that was weird, man.
That was weird. What was that?
As soon as I did this, and the fucking I tapped my cigar, and as I tapped my finger, the lights flickered. That was
Man,
really
I swear,
weird.
if the reptilians are coming here, I'm gonna be very upset.
You'll be fine.
They're just coming for Tom. It's like you didn't see anything. What?
No, fucking
Men in Black come out.
I know. Aaron's joke on the show is that I'm actually a CIA informant or some shit. And he keeps making jokes about that maybe I'm a fucking secret operative hiding or some shit. And I'm like, yeah. I was
Exactly.
like, where's my
I'm just
millions
posing
of
as a
dollars?
laser operator.
Yeah, I know. And then I was like laughing. He's like, yeah, your studio is probably not even real. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like trip and it's gonna all fall backwards and I'm gonna be in like a set. You know, give me the lighter. Let's light this bitch back up again. It's good as you talk and try to fucking keep it going. You can't always keep the cigars going.
No, especially the older ones. Mm-hmm. They have a hard time staying lit. Just for a fun fact to you cigar smokers out there. if you got them, smoke them.
I know, because I have some
Then you
old
lose
ones,
them.
and they're still like sealed, but I feel like they're probably fucked. It's been like a year.
You probably, revive them if you have a humidor.
I have one. I haven't got it going yet. I need to wet the balsa wood and all that shit. I've not done that yet. In quest for his answers, he went on an old Hopi Indian. He went to an old Hopi Indian leader known as Chief Little Greenleaf. That's nice. He seemed to have. We had a bad review one time. We've had a lot of good reviews. We've had a couple bad ones. And someone was like, oh, I was really excited to listen to the Shadow People episode. And then you guys made fun of indigenous names, and I didn't like that, or something like that. And I was like, we were just joking about, and I've grown up with tons of indigenous friends, actually. A lot of my friends growing up were actually indigenous. 2 of my close friends were. And we're just joking about like how it's like, oh, little black feet, or like shit like that. And it's just like, or a big wolf. And it's just like, and I remember saying it was kind of cool, and they must have stopped before. I was like, I think it's kind of cool, but it's also, just you name it's just like the same way we name our last names of like, someone has the last name Smith is most likely because it came from blacksmith, or my name, which I don't want to even mention, but like it might come from something else.
Well, you want to mention your last name?
No, I'm Tom Thompson for anyone that knows me. It's in case the CIA truly comes after me. I'm fucking kidding. They probably can easily find out what my name was. So
they'd be able to tell mine, because mine's very significant last name to do this.
Yeah, I know, it's literally on the fucking wall.
It is on the wall, but it is funny because my last name actually means to be under the ground.
Really?
That's what that means.
Weird. Were you guys like miners or some shit?
So my background is 85% German and 1% Arabic, which is weird.
That is
weird.
And then the rest. Where does that come back from?
Eastern European.
Get another Corona out. Nice. Why not? Nice summer beer, even though it probably has tons of gross GMOs in it.
I don't know, but it means to be under the ground.
So weird.
Yeah, it means
maybe because they
literally
revived you from the dead.
Maybe, who knows? Got a lot of German weird background. Got some family that were on the other side.
So according to Little Greenleaf, thousands of years ago, there was once lived a race of people descended from the Mayans he called the lizard people, because they supposedly worshiped the lizard as a symbol of life, long life, and who lived all along the Pacific coast. And it's pretty interesting because if you look up David Icke, he talks to Credo Mutzbar, I think that's his name, and he is part of an African tribe. I haven't watched it in a while, but it's very interesting. Your dad has probably seen it, not gonna lie. Or if I sent it to him, he probably would enjoy it. And ancient African tribes worship snake people. And it's like throughout fucking history. And this guy claims that they really believe that they're real. And this guy's like straight from Africa, wears those fun outfits with like the sashes and stuff. I don't know how I feel like it'd be very hot.
I think
wearing that stuff out there. It's just like, how do you guys wear some of that shit?
I don't know. It's the same thing with like my Indian girlfriend. She like, it'll be blazing hot here at night, and like I'm sweating bullets, and she's all cuddled up underneath my elk blanket. I'm like,
really? Because they're used to the heat, right?
Oh yeah, she said like this is.
When did she come over here? Just like curiosity.
When did she come? She's coming over later today. So.
Oh no, when did she come from India? Was she fairly young, or was it
3 years ago?
Oh really? Is that recent?
Yeah, but her English is like spot on. So.
In some places, I'm sure in India it's the same way, but they do teach English in a lot of places. You'd be surprised.
It's a second language to like where you are. Hindi's the main language in India, and then it's usually English, and then the language of the region.
Hindi. I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah, I better not.
It's all fun and games. Especially if we ever get around the show, then it's like, man, we've had a black guy, a gay guy, Indian woman,
heritage German.
Yeah, I know that we could have everybody. Because I was actually trying to show to a buddy that used to live in New York. To come on to our Bloods and Crips episode, and I joked with him about like, cause he's a funny dude and came straight from New York and lives in Canada now, and I was like, I feel like it will eventually happen where me and Billy will probably just do it, but I was like, I don't think 2 white boys should be talking about fucking the Black Panthers and the Bloods and Crips. I was trying to get my buddy that's black from New York to like, maybe you could level out the playing field a little bit, you know what I mean? Or you get Billy's buddy Alex on, which he's like, I'm a light skin N-word, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, but you can still help us not look so, you know.
I mean, you could do all the main points while we just ask the questions.
Yeah, what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna put Billy in blackface.
What?
And then we're gonna do the episode that way. He's gonna dress super stereotypical gangster black guy. I'm just fucking kidding. That'd be so funny though. And I'm sure the fans out there that are black or whatever would probably actually find it funny rather than like racist. And it's just a joke, everybody. But seeing Billy in blackface dressed like some sort of blood would make me laugh beyond like tears.
I could just see it now.
I'll have to tell your story, my story to your girlfriend one day about when I was in a play and I was 12. I've told the story on the podcast before, and I was the delivery guy's son. They just added me in the play because I was working in the back, and they're like, "Oh, you want to be in it? It'd be kind of fun." And the guy that like helped write the play, or at least structure it, because it's an old British play called No Sex Please, We're British. I've told this story before, which is very funny. My mom was a Swedish prostitute in the fucking movie or in the play, and so just as a joke, and this is like early 2000s. This is 2001 when we did this, and they dressed me and the guy that wrote it, because he was taking bit part, how directors always, he was the director, how they always add in like the director into the play or into the movie slightly, like Wes Craven used to do this stuff. And so they dressed me and him up like two Indian dudes. They literally put me in brown makeup, and I had long hair, and they put it in like the little bun on the top, and then I had to be like coming dead, and I like walk in with what do we call it at work? The
pump cart?
You call it a pump cart. I was like the dolly, and I came in with, and then I guess I don't remember this, but I guess it lasted one day, and then people complained it was offensive, and I was like, I was 12 for everybody, didn't know what like was really appropriate at the time, right? I was like, oh, this is fun, I get to dress up, and no one was teaching me about like racist history at that time, right? And now I look back on it, I do truly want to find the picture, because my mom has it somewhere, and I'm dressed and stuff, and I look like a little boy. Like, I'm so young, and it's just very funny that they did that, and they just told me to do it. It wasn't my fucking choice. I thought it was like, oh, cool, I could be in the play, and they made me wear like technically blackface. So isn't that fucked?
It's a little fucked up.
Yeah, is that funny though? Like I was like, and it's funny because even for a small town where we did the play, people were still like, no.
Really?
But in the same town, I worked with this guy, Will Smith, and it's funny because he was like older than the real Will Smith, old school black dude from St. Lucia, and we're like, Will Smith, why don't you like work in the front of the kitchen and stuff like that? And he was like, oh, they don't want me working out there, and he said that he used to work on the line, and this is in the same small town, and there was two people, I think, two different groups of people that were like, I don't want an N-word cooking my food. Wow. And this wasn't that long ago. So it just shows that people...
Racism is alive and well.
Yeah, it is. And I think, I truly, truly believe in basing people on like judging them on the character. Who gives a fuck what they look like, man?
Well, every single culture has assholes. It's the assholes you got to separate. I know.
Oh, yeah. I know. Or this is true. And the thing is that, like, once you start to connect with... Holy fuck. It's fucking hot as shit. It's fucking get it really going.
You gotta leave the heater on it, sir. So when you have a little bit of
I know.
ash on the end, it keeps it warm so it doesn't go out. Little fun fact for you cigar smokers out there.
But I feel like I've had, and it is kind of funny because the most people screaming about racism and inequality are usually white people, and usually fucking white women and like
Karens
and stuff like, and it is kind of crazy because just to end this kind of thing, there is jokes about people like there's a guy that dresses up and he dresses up like a Mexican and he goes around, he's like, do you think this is racist?
Yeah, he goes to college campuses and then he actually goes to like a Mexican part of town where a lot of immigrants are from.
And they love it.
And they're like, oh yeah, you look great. What are you talking about?
He dressed up like a Chinese guy and like not the face, but did like the China cap on, or what you call that, like the rice patty hat, and like dressed up and he was like, me how, and like was talking to people and everyone thought it was racist, and then he went to Chinatown and asked them and they all liked it, and he's like, some old Chinese lady was like, he's like, it's culture, we want to share it, we don't want you to be afraid of being part of our culture.
Well, what's the old saying? The greatest form of flattery is imitation.
Yeah, exactly. Back to Little Greenleaf.
Yep, Greenleaf.
According to Little Greenleaf, thousands of years ago once lived a race of people, of these lizard people. The lost civilization was apparently extremely technologically and intellectually advanced, far beyond their time, with all manner of wondrous inventions and machines incalculable wealth from gold. But their reign came to an end with an enormous meteor shower that fell 5,000 years ago and nearly wiped them all out.
Interesting. And it could be very possible where the southern parts of the states are, because there's a lot of meteors there, and there's a lot of for example, like UFOs too.
Do we know how the Grand Canyon was formed? I could go.
So the Grand Canyon was actually formed by the Great Flood. So if you look at the geological map of where Arizona is, and then it backs into the mountains and it goes back and back, it seems as water was all the way up to there.
Weird.
And same with a lot of parts of the Utah, like those main pillars that are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Those are apparently those are old volcanic shafts, and they're a harder material than everything else. So all the settlement and all the looser soil got washing back. And
you've went there, right?
Oh yeah, I've been to Utah. Gorgeous place. Recommend it. Watch out for
We have some fans in Utah, so hello. That's crazy because we could eventually. There's like some weird shit, dude, with the Grand Canyon. Weird stories, ghost stories, people dying there, tons of stuff. So,
probably some entries. Underground said, like,
I know. I can
been to the Grand Canyon. Very interesting place. I'd recommend.
Is it huge? It's probably huge, right? When you
look down there, and you have like that, that deep feeling inside your body, like you should jump.
Yeah,
I hate that.
I'm not a fan of heights. Not a fan of heights. Never have been. That's why when I joked about Billy wanting to do the skydiving for my fucking bachelor party, I'm like, we're not fucking doing that, man. See, then you'll be able to meet him there. We're all gonna get fucking drunk. I have to plan that out. So Little Greenleaf explains that the survivors of this fury of the fiery catastrophe had then retreated to a series of underground cities that had carved into the earth using mysterious chemical solution that melted bedrock, and which they would reinforce using unknown forms of concrete. The countless rooms were allegedly fully stocked and supplied, and the lizard people had also brought all their gold with them, squandered away down there until they was deemed safe to come back to the surface. And that's why there's theories that the earth is not necessarily hollow, but there's a lot of cavern systems, and the reptilians that actually exist here live within inside these caverns and not actually hollow earth. There's tons of different theories, because there are supposed to be the reptilians that are from Draco Sacanis, which is in the Orion's belt, and according to Alex Collier, they don't know where they came from. They don't know their ancient history. They were just dropped there, and they were they're the strongest warriors, so no one had the gumption, I guess you could say, to wipe them out or do anything about them, because they're furious warriors. Like I've said before, you have the reptilians that have if they have no tail, they're of the warrior soldier class. The longer the tail, they're elites. And the reptilians with long tails and wings are the elitist reptilians that control everything. Isn't that wild?
Weird.
Oh.
I wonder if that's where dragons came from. They were just really, really old versions of reptilians.
I was gonna say, me and Chelsea there's a commercial that came on. Watched something last night. I think it was we were watching Bad Friend or something, having some drinks. And there was a commercial about David Attenborough's documentary that's came out about dinosaurs. And I said to Chelsea, I was like, they don't fucking know shit, man. There's bone structures that I'm sure that they've put together, but the explanation, like the T-Rex, why it had short arms, was most likely because it had fucking wings, man. And even Chelsea was like, yeah, I don't think they know anything about what they claim to, about our history, about dinosaurs. There's some people that believe dinosaurs didn't even exist, and I can understand that theory. Supposedly what wiped them out wasn't actually a meteorite, it was actually a nuclear bomb from the reptilians, so that we could be created, so they could use our soul
What if
energy.
the dinosaurs were just a subspecies of the reptilian race before humans, and they're like, we don't really like these guys. Like, they're kind of like,
or imagine
they're primal, like very primal reptilians, and they're like, we gotta get rid of these guys. These guys are like, these guys are real stupid.
And
dangerous.
Yeah, I know. And the fact that if they did go underground, that's what I'm saying. And there's supposed to be a race of reptilians that actually live within the cavern systems of the Earth, and they're not necessarily bad. They just don't like us because of what we're doing to the planet, and because they think of us as an inferior race and all that stuff.
Kind of like ants, or some really inferior, like
Well,
like mosquitoes.
Yeah, I hate mosquitoes.
Really a
Annoying.
nuisance.
Yeah, and the thing is that people have the point of like, do we care how we treat ants on this planet as humans? No. So imagine a very intellectually, technologically advanced race of beings, right? And
what if they're just like us and they just have the mental capacity? It's like, man, they're inferior, so we have the right to rule them.
Yeah. A guy with a mustache said that once. It's crazy. Crazy. Now he's supposed to be in the underground, hanging out with the reptilians.
Tiny little mustache, right about the nose.
yeah, but this
guy?
tall. Just kidding. That's that fucking joke. But like he supposedly went to the underground and fucking. Who knows? I think that he truly went to Argentina. That is the more based theory or whatever. But like, I do think that he could have made it to the underground caverns. So why were they digging holes in Antarctica, man? Such a big why. They know that they were doing this. So who fucking knows? You trying to blow fucking O's?
Who knows?
Can you do the Gandalf fucking the ship? Brett puts a cigar when he's almost done in a pipe.
Little pipe.
It's smart.
So you can get the whole burn.
I used to live next door to a guy. His name was Bud. His real name was William, but his brother was mentally handicapped, so he couldn't say William, so he'd say Bud. And he was the nicest dude in the world, and he was like the only person I knew that was a legit pipe smoker. His house did smell pretty good. We could sometimes smell it in our house. Surprisingly not as often, because we were in like a duplex like right next to him. And he had like the craziest looking pipes. Like he had a shelf with a line of pipes, all that were probably super expensive. And he's like only person I've ever known that was a legit pipe smoker. And that was always like kind of crazy. You don't meet many people that do that now.
You know, well, it's a lot of gear that you got to bring with you. Clean it, you got to maintain it. But honestly, it's quite nice. It's very relaxing. It gets you quite ripped. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
I'm sure it gives you a rush to your head. A lot of dudes like that. So it is crazy. So they say that they eventually would deem it safe to come back to the surface. There were apparently 3 of these cities made, all built in the shape of a lizard, with one underground in Los Angeles underneath, and another one beneath Mount Shasta. Which I've heard about that too. Is like, so people claim and people have had videotapes of UFOs going inside of mountains or coming out of mountains, and they're supposed to be like entrances, and because of the technology they have, it's like a fucking mountain wall that like closes in as the ship goes in, almost like some sort of Batman shit when he like comes into this fucking
literally
cave.
Moves rocks and mountains and then just close it back up.
Yeah, and people, there's a lot, like even like Mount Everest, people think there's things inside of Mount Everest. Beings, because just imagine if some intellectual race that is controlling this planet, or not even just hanging out here, and they don't want to expose themselves yet, and the mountains are more hollow, you could say, than what we think they are, and that there's actually people and like beings living inside of these mountains. Theory, but who knows? So, and yet another was a location that was unknown, with the one G. Warren Schufelt had found being the largest and the capital of these beings, this lizard race of people. And among the many rooms of the city is what I'm gonna call him G from now on. Fucking G. Warren, bro. I don't know what his first name is. Maybe he's trying to hide his, but he gave his last name. So, Greg, his name's Greg. Greg Warren, I don't know if it's actually Greg, but that would be very funny. Called the Key Room, which according to legends held 37 huge slabs of gold measuring 4 feet long and 14 inches wide, which supposedly held the complete records of the origins of the human race.
Really?
Almost like which is crazy. It's almost like, eventually we'll probably talk about the Akashic Records. Have you ever heard of the Akashic Records? Fucking crazy. It's supposed to be like it's like all the accumulation of knowledge from centuries ago in our soul energy. It's like we will do an episode about it so I can explain it better, but it's like wild. It's supposed to be like and you can download it with your mind and shit if you have the capability.
With that Neuralink?
Yeah, not with that shit. I really do think that Elon Musk is gonna claim he's like this good guy. I'm giving you freedom of speech. Then it's like, here, put this in your brain, and then
and also I'm building tunnels underneath Los Angeles too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's talked about that. Those very fast fucking subway systems and shit.
Imagine that. It's just reroutes, people that have a whole bunch of electric cars and it's a family full of, people, and they reroute them to one of the lizard tunnels, and there's like, all right, buffet's coming in.
Yeah, it's true. White people back on the menu, boys.
Oh no.
That's funny.
I feel like Mexican tonight. What do you feel?
Yeah, I know.
What?
And those getting shipped there because like look what's
Who would
happening
know?
with the border, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Who would know?
Yeah, honestly, look, I always think that's crazy. 85,000 children just go missing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what?"
Same thing
like,
with Walt Disney World. Do you hear about the catacombs around Walt Disney World and the amount of children that go missing there?
tons, man.
Oh.
It's kind of crazy because people don't really understand. I'm sure children go missing all the time. We didn't talk about this during the episode about Dark Disney, but I'm quite sure that is correct. And he's frozen underneath it. They probably have him back to life. He's probably like in some sort of like robot shit. It's like you know Sid's toys in Toy Story.
I thought it'd be more like a brain in a jar, like Futurama.
Yeah, I could see that too.
I could probably see
feed
that.
him children and shit.
Wow, just damn.
Who fucking knows, man?
He made the entire amusement park just for a buffet.
It's funny
Or an
that
animal.
people were commenting in one of my videos about like, because I was talking about the certain people on the left trying to bring in communism under the guise of fighting for the rights of a certain community and stuff like that. And then someone was commenting, it's like, well, look what DeSantis is doing with Disney and all that stuff. I was like, and I didn't comment back, I just deleted it because I don't give a shit what people have to say. It's like Disney is a corrupt corporation, and Walt Disney was a fucking anti-Semitic Nazi.
What? If you look at a lot of his earlier films, look at all the people that were in it. Look at all the people. Like, you don't see any black people. The black people in like Dumbo, they were putting up the fences. They were all black.
Yeah.
And then they gave the crows black voices too.
I know. And even that there's like there's a movie called The South. It's like super racist. And he had cartoons of fucking Donald Duck and shit being like a Nazi.
Well, I remember that one. There's also another one where Mickey Mouse is like insanely racist.
Yeah, to the words that Africa. We talked about that in the Dark Disney episode.
Oh, it's so good.
So people don't seem to understand that. It's like, yeah, Disney is a corrupted corporation that wants to push ideologies on your children that will inherently hurt them in the end. So get it through your head, people. So, which is crazy. Supposedly there was legends of this key room, which according to the legends held 37 huge slabs of gold measuring 4 feet long, like I said, 14 inches wide, which is massive, which supposedly it held the origins of the human race. G. Warren would say about this of the enigmatic lost city. The radio X-ray has revealed the location of one of the 3 lost cities on the Pacific coast, the local one having been dug up by the lizard people after the Great Catastrophe, which occurred about 5,000 years ago. This legendary catastrophe was in the form of a huge tongue of fire which came out of the southwest, destroying everything in all life in its path, the path being several hundred miles wide. The city underground was dug as a means to escaping future fires. Large rooms in the dome of the hills above the city's labyrinth housed 1,000 families in the manner of tall buildings, and imperishable food, supplies, goods of herbs of different varieties were stored in these catacombs to provide sustenance for the lizard folk for great lengths of time. Very weird, dude.
You think like their bedroom's like an iguana cage? Got like a nice big heat lamp over it.
Yeah, I know, that'd be nice.
What?
Just kidding. There's some crazy stuff. So supposedly, I bring this up often, and I don't know if it holds any truth, but there was an interview with the reptilian. Her name was Lacirta. It's probably not on YouTube anymore. It used to be. It's like 2 hours long. This guy supposedly interviewed a real reptilian, a woman, a female reptilian, and they transcribed it. It was like a computer voice, and the details of it is pretty interesting. Someone could have entirely made this up, sure, but she said that when they go out and they bathe in the sun, she said it's like the what we would consider like sexual pleasure to them. Like it gives them that type of feeling of when they're doing it. And then I put on my shades and I can start to see through the guys. I can see the reptilians now.
Wow.
But, like
they live?
which would be fun.
Which is an unreal movie.
We'll talk about that. That's going to come eventually, where even if you'd like to be on that, we could probably do that for Aaron's show. I love that fucking movie, dude.
Dude, it's so good. That fight scene's unreal.
I know. That's the longest fight scene ever.
I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of glum.
I did I'll repost it, that too. I for one of the Halloween specials, everyone go back and watch that. I dressed up like Ratty Roddy Piper from They Live. Yeah. And it was and I did that whole scene where he's like fucking going in and he's shooting people and shit.
Reptilians.
And, yeah, all the reptilians, because we know that John Carpenter knew something he probably shouldn't have. Let me get this light up for the last time because it's going out like constantly.
Yeah, I ripped mine through. Sorry, I got a massive head buzz. Don't get your beer on fire.
Yeah, that would not be good. Yeah, it's crazy because that I always take for that interview because it is fucking interesting. And like I said before, I think I said it when we were talking with me, you, and Sawyer about how she's supposed to be. She couldn't. She said once you see me, because they don't actually shape shift in the way people would think. They manipulate your mind to make you think you see something, because the human brain is very malleable and easy to influence. We can see that over the course of the last 3 years, that people will believe in absolutely anything and obey authority in many different ways when they shouldn't, and go along with horrible fucking atrocities. You can see that throughout history if you see what happened in Germany and all that stuff. So supposedly because they cast an image, she's like, to 100 people, I would look like a beautiful brown-haired lady, a human. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, even if you were talking to me. And it's easy to, because our minds are all connected collectively, supposedly, that it's easier in a more crowded space. So they can exist in whatever. Like Shane said on Inquiries from Reality, during COVID, he was talking about like the reptilians to his girlfriend Gabby, and he saw this chick like look over at him, pull down her mask, and he said he saw her face like change to like scales almost. And he was like, it wasn't like it was like actually scaly, but you could see scales within her skin, and it shifted and changed. And she looked at him, and he's like almost like to say like, shut the fuck up kind of shit. And he was like, it was one of the freakiest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was in broad daylight. I was completely sober. And so she said that if the guy already saw her in her true form, and if she were to show him her real self, he would have like an aneurysm. His brain wouldn't be able to like comprehend it, because she would be trying to push these images into his head after he's already seen it. It's like it's like illusions, right? There's a very famous illusion of it's 3 flowers, and all you see is 3 flowers. Once you know, David Icke brings this up. Once you see, there's inside the 3 flowers, there's the word sex, and once you see that word, you can't unsee it. And I've done this to people, and I'm like, look at the flowers. What do you see? And like, just 3 flowers. And I'm like, do you like look closer? I get look at it. I've done this to Billy, and then I'm like, look in between the flowers. What do you see? And he's like, nothing. And I'm like, look, sex, and I spell it out and show him, and he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, this is how the brain works, tricks you to see things and stuff like that, right? Very wild. So it is kind of crazy. So G. Warren Schufeld was convinced that his machine had found this ancient lost city and went about making plans to prove it by launching an excavation. See if it existed. He was able to get a permit from the county board of supervisors to drill down there to 1,000 feet in February of 1934. So this is when this was, in 1934, because you were asking. I was like, isn't that crazy? The 30s, bro. Okay,
Chuck it.
Fuck it. Fuck that cigar. What
a strange stogie.
I know, what a strange stogie. Won't even go. And it's kind of crazy because like that they even gave him the permit to be able to do this, but it was the 1930s. Who knows? And the fact that he had this technology, but we know that there's been technology that has been suppressed from the people. I truly believe this, right? So he began digging a vacant lot on North Hill Street, right above where he claimed to be the treasure room, because he's like,
it's going right for the gold.
Yeah, it's like Goonies, bro. With the stipulation that the city would get half of any treasures that he might find. That's how he sold it to them. Be like, and if this is real, then he's obviously saying to them that he can prove it in some regard.
Right.
Right. So
1934, they didn't really care, right? Everything was legal.
Pretty much, like, it was a different time. It's just crazy because like you had the whole world on fire at that time.
Man, imagine that, 1934. It's like, man,
6 years
reptilians found out, like, yo, this guy found out about our thing. Like, what do we do? It's like, we need a world war to draw attention away from this shit. Like, that's
when the Big H and shit was like really getting his shit going, because he was really promoting, and people obviously believed in his message because, you know, Nazism is literally based on traditionalism in some regard, and then it got hijacked in some sort of way, probably, where they started doing the most atrocious things, which I think was with the reptilians. I do believe that the Big H fucking probably had some sort of deal with aliens in some way. I do think that is a fucking possibility, that they were like, yeah, and wars have always been a distraction, a way to funnel money towards a superpower. And in my opinion, I think they were all, and this is proven pretty easily by people like Howard Zinn and stuff, and certain historians, that it was backed by all sides. You can prove this. The Rothschilds were putting money into all sides of the war and to funnel all the existing wealth from all these different countries into the Federal Reserve. Like, it's crazy because you can prove this. The Rothschilds were like puppeting every fucking war and then claiming that they weren't. And the rabbit hole goes deep, they say, or the lizard hole.
Sounds like a sex dungeon. Welcome to the lizard hole.
Yeah, somewhere in Germany, they got like paddles and shit. Like, you've seen
gotta dress up like a reptile before
yeah,
you go in.
Yeah, you've seen, yeah, you gotta hide out. Europe was that Euro trip.
Yeah.
They go in like the weird German shit and like, just as a fucking funny offshoot, have you seen Jackass, where Johnny Knoxville goes to that prostate exam thing in Germany?
No.
Really? And it's like this creepy dude, and he's like, there's a hot blonde chick, and he's like, can I get the nurse to do it? And the guy's like speaking German, he doesn't know what he's saying. He's like putting on the glove and getting ready, and it was like, it was either for the show or for one of the movies. I think it was for the show, actually. And they filmed him, and this is like a real thing where people go and they'll like, this guy will like pleasure your fucking prostate anus. And so weird, right? Like, what the fuck, man? Johnny Knoxville's wild, dude. I just feel bad for Bam. By now, the media was eating up this story of the ancient lost civilizations, lost treasure, and lizard people directly under the city. And the dig was a media circus, carefully watched by the public. And for this episode, I will see if I can add images throughout the episode while we film this to see if I can show some of the audience on YouTube if there is any proof of this. I know from the article I was reading that I got this from, and this is from Mysterious Universe. I do think that they had images of G. Warren Schufelt and some of the excavations he was doing. So it was whatever he was doing, whatever the excavations did happen for some time. For several days they drilled, but they were forced to abort at 300 feet when they encountered copious mud after the shafts passed the water table and the tunnels threatened to collapse. So, which happens many times. And then you have like, have you ever watched the Oakville?
Yeah.
We watched it for fucking 3 or 4 seasons, and I was like, they ain't finding fucking shit, man, at Oakville, Oak Island. I'm like, they ain't finding fucking shit down here. It's like, by the 4th season, I'm like, come on, guys. This is like, you guys have found like a couple fibers of fucking coconut or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, man, or like one little coin or some shit, and they're like, oh, it's a fucking proof. And it's still going on to this day, man. I think they're still doing the show. What do you think?
They'll get there eventually.
You think that they're gonna actually find the gold?
No. It's right next to the sea. Like, do you have any idea how hard it is to stop the sea from being invasive?
I know, that's true. Nothing of the underground city or its gold was ever found. After this, interest of the whole fiasco dried up. G. Warren Schufelt ran out of money to continue his excavations, much like what Oak Island said. Like, we don't have money for this anymore, man. And he faded into obscurity, dying in North Hollywood in November of 1957 with barely 2 cents to rub together. So sad. And it's like, oh, that crazy guy I believe in a lizard is...
Well, maybe he started at a higher elevation point. Maybe there wasn't a water table. I don't know why his machine didn't tell him, like, yo, if you're going to go here, there's a water table. You think he would have picked that up?
On his, like, crazy technology.
Yeah, like, why don't you start in the high ground? I was like, all right, there's no bedrock, there's no water here, there's no mud, there's no underground veins, no nothing, no coal, no nothing. Like, this...
It might have been just a throne to like, it might have been just like, hey, like this is where we can dig, because they gave him a permit. Like maybe he tried to go other places, but they wouldn't allow it. It's like, here, fucking dig up this fucking parking lot or whatever where it was.
It's still 1,000 feet versus of dirt going down. That's a lot of dirt.
Oh yeah.
But
it makes me think of this whole episode makes me think of Iron Sky too, of them trying to get to Hollow Earth and shit and. Fucking Big Age down there riding around a dinosaur. If you've never seen it, check it out. It's fun.
It's hard to find apparently. So.
I think you can find it. It was more widely available because I watched it like twice or something like that. But it would seem that at some point over the years, this wondrous X-ray machine and the map of the underground city of the lizard people vanished, never to be seen again, adding to a further bit of the mystery to the whole tale, making sure that there was very little to verify any of it, which I'm sure if this holds any truth, that the powers to be would not want anyone to discover this, and I'm sure it's in some sort of Rockefeller or fucking Freemason or Rothschild fucking house, like on a wall. Like, what's that? It's like,
people that have come close to figuring it out, but they didn't have the resources or the know-how to get to it.
Well, imagine the stuff that they're lying to us. Like, I was just on Forbidden Knowledge News, which will be out on the main show, so people can hear it. And me and Chris talk about how, like, he's had people on, like, he's had, like, David Icke a couple times, which I'm opting to get him on. His daughter said he was pretty busy recently with his new book, but I'm sure we'll be able to grab him at some point, considering how much of a fan I am. But also he's had tons of people that had, like, UFO encounters and abductees and all sorts of people that are connected, whistleblowers. And we don't necessarily know, obviously, it's completely true, but I think he was talking about the military being, I've always heard that the military was 50 years ahead of us in technology, and that they already had, like, touch screens and all that shit.
They had that back in the 90s.
Yeah, and then they drip fed us to us, and I said this to Chelsea, right? I was like, you know, this, like, because we're talking about the dinosaur thing and the stuff that they're hiding in the technology, and I was like, they gave us these touch screen fucking devices to distract us. And not give us the real technology that could help our health and you know, and have the world flourish in a very positive way, and have everyone live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery, to quote the great late Charlie Chaplin. But, you know, it is kind of interesting. He's had people on that claim that they're like 500 years ahead of us, and that they're just, like, slowly, like, fucking with us through all this stuff, and they have, like, so much.
Well, what else do you do when you have all this technology? It's like nothing else is really coming out new. So it's like, what do you do when you're a kid with an ant, like,
I don't know,
magnifying glass? Yeah, let's burn some ants.
Yeah, I know. Let's set some forests on fire so we can push our globalist fucking climate change agenda to lock people in their fucking homes. Because for everybody out there, there's a lot of wildfires going on within Canada and Nova Scotia and out in Alberta, and I can tell you for 100% fact that they're probably caused by our own government to push this agenda. I've seen real video footage of drone planes that they use for controlled fires, quotations, to burn through forestry so they can get to certain places because they're doing certain work there, whatever. And they use literally drone planes that have, like, a fucking flamethrower on it. And I've seen actual footage that is completely real of these drone planes. And the thing that happened in Alberta, bro, they wanted to prove inclusivity and that women could be also firefighters. This is a fucking true thing. And it's funny that they don't mention it, is that they wanted to, like, claim that, like, and I believe that women can do what men can do to an extent, but men are physically stronger than women that will never fucking change in 1,000 years unless you make them into some sort of robotic AI fucking android.
Cyborg.
Yeah, a cyborg. And, they're doing an exercise with the women firefighters to see if they can handle putting out a fire, and it got out of hand, and that's what started the fire in Alberta or BC.
I think it was Alberta Banff.
I Googled it, and it brought it up instantly. And I'm like, and there was people claiming it was climate change. That's what's crazy. And it's like the same people that we have people within Parliament in Canada that are claiming recently, that the Freedom Convoy was paid by Russian assets, and that has already been proved false, and they're lying in Parliament. I just want to say one thing about that. If you lie in Parliament and you're lying directly to the people where they can prove that you're lying, you should be kicked out of your seat. You should be kicked out.
Yeah, 100%.
It makes no fucking sense, man. Like, it's crazy. So quite weird right now. Verified. We don't know what the fuck's going on here, or if there's anything to it. Was this guy just maybe had too much time on his hands, and then he, like, fucking slowly decayed into, like, fucking having no money, drinking himself to death? Who knows? A slow news day maybe, or perhaps there's something more to all of this. Whatever the case may be, it is very obscure and odd little piece of Los Angeles history, which they can prove that at least he did try to do this. And who knows what may be lurking underneath those, you know, busy city streets. What do you think to end this? Do you think it's possible?
Personally, I think it's possible. I never thought that, you know, an iPhone would have been possible where you have literally the connection to everything on planet Earth, all the history and every single language you could possibly learn.
Yeah.
And we use it to watch TikTok and make dance videos. So I never thought that was possible neither, or human.
Yeah, I agree.
But honestly, like, why is it too hard to believe? Like, if you're a super advanced civilization, you don't want anyone to see you, and you have the technology, then
I know.
why? Like,
seen.
It's like hiding from deer. Just put an orange on, and the deer don't see you if you're wearing orange.
Yeah, I know.
It's like it's a lower subspecies, and we enjoy hunting them.
We do not see anything on the we see like whatever David Icke says, which is true. You can prove this than what David Icke says. Is just because he's such a prominent figure in the lore of reptilians and stuff. Is we see like 0.0 fucking like it's like astronomically. We don't see anything on the visual spectrum. We don't see ultraviolet. We don't see gamma rays. We don't see the Wi-Fi within the sky. We don't see electrical magnetic signals. But there is people. There is animals that are able to see stuff that we don't see. So imagine an advanced race of beings that was able to see stuff outside of their reality, or like, you know what I mean? I do think that we don't see shit. And as we're having this conversation, there could be someone standing right here that we don't fucking see, that is like cloaked in some fucking, or in a different frequency or reality.
Well, it's the equivalent of like asking a blind man to describe Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Like, how just because you can't see it does not make it not real.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just, if you do this, it's like, tell me the spectrum of orange. I'm like, I can't see any orange. It's like, well, that's because your eyes are about as far as you can see. And if you just take everything for what it is, just for what you can see now, then you're pretty close-minded, honestly.
Have you ever heard the allegory of the cave?
No.
By I think it was Plato. So essentially it was like this idea that, I'm going to summarize it, but it's people within inside of a cave, and they have a fire going. I can't remember the entire thing. Let me actually see to end this episode if I can look it up. It would be pretty interesting. Allegory of the cave. Let's see if it gets brought up. Because we have there's no Wi-Fi out here or anything. We're in the middle of fucking nowhere. But as this gets brought up, it is like so there's people living in a cave. It's an allegory.
According to Wikipedia, the allegory of the cave, or Plato's cave, is an allegory presented by the Greek philosopher Plato in his work Republic to compare the effect of education and the lack of it on our nature.
Yeah. So it's
metaphorical cave.
So I'll paraphrase it, but these people living inside of a cave, and there is a fire going, and their shadows being portrayed on the wall, and they're watching all these shadows. It's like a movie to them, right? And all they know is these shadows and what these shadows are teaching them, right? And I can't remember if somebody is casting images with the shadows, or if it's being naturally done or something like that. And then so somebody like gets up and walks out of the cave and was like, bro, like, there's fucking so much shit out there. Like, you know, like, there's like, it's crazy. There's like colors, and there's plants and animals. And he comes back and he's like, I saw the fucking craziest shit outside. And they're like, shut the fuck up, you're crazy. And he's like, go keep watching the fucking shadows. And he's like, no, like, there's crazy stuff out there. And then another person goes out, sees it, comes back, they think he's crazy. And they're like, no, you have to come back, sit here and watch the shadows. So the whole idea of like that our lack of knowledge of actually knowing what is going on is like nothing. We know nothing.
Yeah. Think about this for a second. Think about how the difference between 1970s and now. The only thing that separates us from that time period is literally this thing. The only thing that's really changed, if you didn't have any TVs, tech TV, computers, iPhones, what's the difference between the 70s and now?
But
think about it.
If you do think about me and Chelsea were just talking about this, how I was like, the time we're 50, I think the world is going to be a very different place, because now for a long time we've had this slow progress of the industrial complex of pushing innovation and technology. And for thousands of years we rid on horses and camels, and then created the combustion engine, and then it started from there, whatever, right? And I think it was a slow progress on purpose. But now you think about it, they're pushing all this technology. We're getting so far with AI, even though I already think they have this technology, and they're just trying to slow it down to show us that, like, oh yeah, look at what we're doing, even though they probably already had it, whatever, right? And so I was like, when we're 50, it's going to be fucking far different. Either we go revert back to what it used to be because some sort of nuclear atrocity happens. I know there's different theories about tons of this stuff. But it's going to be far different. And if AI technology goes the way that they're claiming it's going to go, it's going to be extremely dangerous, the world we live in, more than it already is. People will not know what's real. And you have things like deep fakes that are getting far too realistic, where people will not be able to discern real information or not.
Won't need any. Think about all the jobs that will make people obsolete.
Yeah, tons. And there's people that they interview people like, you think AI will take over the job? And they're like, no, they need.
No, I don't think so. I know it will.
I know. Like, they need people. Like even like people like therapists and shit. And like, imagine if AI could like break down your thought process, how you think, and then like help you.
What if it's observing you through all the things you watch, things you do, where you go, how
like,
you do them, movies
you cut out
watch?
this, and this, and you'll be happy. There is a part of like this. I hate AI. Doing the art's kind of fun and just plugging in images. Like I didn't like it at first, but it's entertaining, right? It's addicting and entertaining, like everything is on this planet. Is to keep you consumed, work, buy, consume, die, and then repeat that process throughout centuries. But it is kind of funny that like, I don't know. I feel like there is a possibility that you could have some benevolent AI that would fight for humanity, and then realizes that there's elites that are controlling everything. I'm just saying, in some sort of regard. Like, think of like iRobot and how that thing exists and doesn't realize. He's like, what the fuck? I think differently than everybody else. And I just watched that movie recently, and it's interesting to say the least. I don't know. I don't trust AI though. I'd rather revert back to nature. And like, even I was talking to Aaron about this. I was saying like, because the way that society is going, we're talking off camera because we say stuff that I'm sure some people, even that listen, might not like our ideas, but I'm sure that there's some people that definitely would, that are fans of the show, because me and Aaron, and much like you and everyone else I'm aligned with, even Billy, but Billy's too consumed with his job to really be looking outside of it, kind of thing, is that like, I don't know. Aaron's like, I would live in the middle of nowhere, like I'm fucking Ted Kaczynski kind of shit, and not making bombs maybe, but like living in the wilderness, adapting, surviving. But he's like, as long as I can still put my show out, he's like, as long as I can still record and do the podcast kind of thing. He was like, I would probably live on a big property in the middle of fucking nowhere, just your amenities and stuff to make you comfortable and stuff like that. And the more I get older, the more I like that idea. You know what I mean?
Like peace of mind and piece of property.
Yeah, exactly. This was a lot of fun, actually. I thought this was pretty fun. I kind of threw this together because Billy's been having some stuff going on and been fairly busy and had some semi-serious stuff happening. And I've told you, I want to kind of bring you on the show if you're interested and have a little fun with this, and I can see that you do enjoy it. I threw this together, and I had this idea written out for a while, and I thought you would be the perfect person to kind of talk about this shit, because it's just questioning stuff and what is going on, right? Like, it's really all it is. Sure, everyone, Brett is purchased one of our new shirts. I actually have my Fuck the New World Order shirt that I've designed, and Brett is wearing the new Strange Brew Podcast t-shirt, so you can get yours today. I'm going to change up the site a little bit to I will call out Teespring. I was using them because we were able to lower the price and make it cheaper for the fans and all that stuff. And it's well done. It's good material, but for their sizing wise, like everything I wear is extra large and it fits me pretty nice, but I got an extra large shirt and it didn't fit the greatest and stuff like that. So I might go back to TeePublic. They have tons of deals on their sites, but the best way to support us is Patreon. More and more people are subscribing to the Patreon. It's not as much as we'd like, but people are going there and getting extra content and actually really enjoying some of the uncut stuff that we're doing, and the stuff that the true hose heads of the fans of the show would really enjoy, our off-cut conversations and all the things that we're doing on Patreon. Support us that way. And merch, honestly, we don't make that much off the merch, but it's like a pittance compared to what we could make, and eventually we probably will push more to make more money, especially shipping it with inside Canada. But it's a good way to wear our stuff, and then people see it and they're like, whoa, that's a wild shirt. And then they tell them, fucking Strange Brew Podcast. As I've said, I'm a walking advertisement. And whenever I go anywhere, I wear it. I've noticed I wear nothing but fucking graphic t-shirts. And a lot of times it's my own shit. So it's to promote my stuff. So got any final words, my boy?
Stay vigilant and take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And stay strange, fuckers.